guilty. Now, as attorneys, we've counseled him, we've advised him, but that decision is ultimately up to the defendant. He controls his case, and that's his prerogative, that's his right, and that's what happened here today. When Rex decided that he wanted to accept responsibility and didn't want to proceed to trial, from a defense standpoint, we then pivoted and did our best to protect his interest. That included the fact that he's going to cooperate with the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the Behavioral Analysis Unit, and as you heard the district attorney, there will be no further prosecutions in regards to these 8 victims. The district attorney's office of Suffolk County did an excellent job. I'll commend them. They deserve all the accolades. I've been reviewing this case for over 2.5 years. I can't express to you, and I know we've talked about it on many different dates, the volume of evidence and discovery. They did a great job. They really did a great job of gathering the evidence, they went down hundreds of rabbit holes. And when you look at the amount of evidence and you connect the dots, they really did a great job. And I'm talking about the investigators, the detectives, their experts, the assistant district attorneys. So I'm sure that the families of the victims are very grateful to the district attorney, and the people of this county should be as well. This was an unprecedented case, and I can tell you that I am very fortunate to have had a legal team that helped me on this over the course of the last 2.5 years. I don't know where Mr. Capone is, and Mr. Fuchs. They are excellent writers, and we battled this from day one, and we were prepared from day one to try this case. Chase Brown has been an excellent help in terms of everything we've been doing. He is a rising star in this county, and my co-pilot Danielle Koish, she really put together that Fry hearing. That was such a monumental hearing here in New York State. And she's organized and came up with such crafty arguments during the course of this case. So I'm really grateful for their help. We really were, in my opinion, zealous. We did our best to be competent and effective during the course of this prosecution and the defense. One of the things that I was very mindful of and made a deliberate point is we attacked the evidence. We never attacked these young ladies, these victims. That was never our objective. We never said a bad word about them, and they ran into some tough times. They were all beautiful young ladies. Their mothers, their daughters, their sisters, I can go on and on. But it was never about attacking them. It was always about attacking the evidence. So I think that this today gave hopefully some peace and some closure to the family members. This case is over from our standpoint. You heard the prosecutor indicate there will be no further prosecutions in exchange for his plea of guilty, as well as his cooperation with the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the Behavioral Analysis Unit. I respect the press and their role in the criminal justice system, so I'm happy to take some questions to the best that I can at this point.
Was there specific...
What changed and when? That's what we're trying to figure out.
Well, I can't give you our conversations that are confidential, but I will say to you that there came a point in this defense where Rex said, I want to plead guilty. And it was at that point when we really had an objective of protecting his interests.
Sure, but can you give us some
I can't. No, because that's all confidential. I'm not going to get into the time frame.
Is he cooperating with the FBI?
I'm sorry?
Has he spoken to Asa?
Has he spoken to Asa? I don't know. You'd have to ask Asa.
Mike, can you talk a little bit about the parameters of the FBI cooperation? Because we couldn't really hear you on the mic well when you mentioned that in court. And what does that mean for a potential federal prosecution of Rex, if at all?
Yeah, I'm not at liberty to discuss any of that. All I can say is he has an obligation to cooperate fully and completely with the Federal Bureau of Investigations Behavioral Analysis Unit. I can't get into anything further. Anybody? Yes, sir.
This plea comes sometime after the judge ruled on DNA. Was that part of the calculation that there was just another obstacle in the way to try to prove his innocence versus pleading guilty?
Well, we don't have to prove innocence, obviously.
Well,
It's about, but I understand your question. Yeah, I mean, listen, there are a couple of things that were major decisions in this case from a strategic standpoint for the defense, in terms of likelihood of success at trial, so to speak. The judge's ruling on the Fry hearing was monumental. Yes, that's a big deal because if you remember, you have mitochondrial DNA and the statistical likelihood is not that great. I feel like I'm a broken record, but that was 2.5 years ago. We talked about that. But once that nuclear DNA comes into play, those statistics, as portrayed by this expert, the Astrea lab, they're off the charts. So that's a major part of how successful you're going to be at trial. Another major part is our motion to sever, which Ms. Koish wrote a great motion on that because we didn't think, we suggested that the cumulative effect would have been so overwhelming, and the court disagreed with us, and the court permitted all of the counts in the indictment to remain together. That's a big win for the prosecution.
Mr. Brown, you
Yes.
yourself told us many times that you believed he was not the guy. When did your thoughts on that change?
Well, my thoughts aren't important. At some point, he admitted responsibility to us and indicated that he wanted to proceed to trial. So I don't sit there and judge a case. Our objective and our job is to be zealous advocates for the client, right? That's what we do. We do it on every single case. A good lawyer is going to advocate for their client. That's what we've been doing from day one. My beliefs, and it's insignificant.
Mr. Brown,
Yes, sir.
The hearing is often, these kinds of hearings are so clinical. Can you give us an understanding of his mindset coming in and whether he, without betraying confidences, may have said something that indicated a particular way he was thinking or feeling about this?
You're talking about this morning?
Yeah.
Well, this is not something that nothing has been done from the hip. We don't shoot from the hip on this case. This case, every single decision we've made has been calculated and thought out, and we've thrown it around hundreds of times. And the reason I say that is, we've been speaking to him and preparing him for today, and that's been ongoing for weeks.
Is he sorry?
I would hope so.
Has
I mean,
he expressed remorse?
I expect at sentencing he'll have something to say. I'll leave it at that.
Was it a sense of relief, you think, for him to
I do.
admit this today?
I do. I think that was a huge sense of relief for him. I can't, I'm not in his position, obviously, and I never will be. But when you have that type of in your head and on your body and just, I think by admitting it, I think it's cathartic to some extent, sure.
Mike, are we expecting to get into more detail about how he did all of this at sentencing?
No.
What does the fact of the DNA evidence not being appealable do for other cases in this state?
I'm going to let Ms. Koish answer that because she really is now an expert on this area.
Yeah, so what we have in this Fry decision is a Supreme
Danielle,
Court
just stand a little
decision.
closer.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's a Supreme Court decision. Another Supreme Court justice could hear the same issues and either agree with Judge Mazie or disagree with Judge Mazie. It's not a controlling decision yet, okay? So I assume we're going to hear more. I think that this type of technology, now that the door was open, is going to be used more, and similar legal challenges are going to be raised. And it's up and until we get to the higher courts, what we call the appellate division over in Brooklyn or even our Court of Appeals, does that decision become binding. So Judge Mazie's decision certainly opened the door. We're going to see it, and I'm sure we're going to hear what other Supreme Court justices and other judges in New York think about the case. But as of right now, it's just a door-opening decision.
Mr. Brown, can you just clarify if there was an agreement? He's pleaded guilty to 7 counts. He also acknowledged an 8th murder, right? But then there's something about no future prosecutions. Does that mean if there were other victims found in Suffolk that there would not be prosecutions?
No, there will be no further prosecutions on these 8 victims.
And how did the 8th one come about? Like, how did that end up being part of it?
When he decided he wanted to plead guilty, we had that covered as part of his plea, and there'll be no further prosecutions as long as he cooperates with the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Behavioral Analysis Unit.
So is Rex maintaining that he has no other victims out there?
No, he's maintaining he has no other victims other than the 8, correct, yes.
When did Karen Bragada enter the conversation with you?
It's hard to say. I don't know. I don't have the timeline. I can't tell you. Obviously, she came into play. Her as a victim came into play at some point. I can't tell you exactly when.
Weeks, months?
I don't know.
How much was the...
Mr. Brown, could you tell us if his family might have helped him make this decision?
I think that they speak, and I think that there was, I can tell you that, I'll say this, certainly several of his concerns, he had many about why he didn't want to go to trial and plead guilty. He certainly wanted to save the families of the victims the ordeal of going to trial, and coupled with saving his family that ordeal. So I know that there was conversations during the course of this defense between his family members and himself in regards to that, yes.
Did he not want his family members, his wife and his daughter, to know the details of the murders that he committed?
I would assume that. I'm sure, again, there was conversations about having them avoid the ordeal of a trial. It was definitely a factor. Yes.
How much of a factor was a federal charge?
Okay, we've been listening to Rex Heuermann's attorney, Michael Brown. A lot of questions can't be answered due to client attorney privilege, but doing the best he can to answer some of the questions that he had to field.